spoilers for the entire Mass Effect trilogy, but pretty much all of those spoilers pertain to the worst Squadmate, so do you really care? I'll give a warning before any spoilers that actually matter. The Mass Effect series is a favorite of many, and while the gameplay and plot have some major highs, they do also have some deep lows. The main thing that cemented the love of so many for the series is its characters, more particularly the crewmates who join you on missions, with a total of 20 unique crewmates across the games, not including temporary ones. Sorry, Jenkins. And while some are more popular than others, they're generally all well loved. But there's one Squadmate who is not only unloved, but near universally loathed. I don't even need to do more of a build-up. I didn't need to hide who it was in the thumbnail. You all know this video is about Jacob. Jacob fucking sucks, and you probably agree with me, but I bet you don't realize just how much he sucks. When asked why they dislike Jacob, most people will say it's because he's boring, but that's not just it. Kaidan is also boring, but he has a much larger fan base and isn't nearly as disliked as Jacob. James Vega is also boring compared to most of the crew, but he also has a decently sized fan base. But Jacob's fan base is composed pretty much entirely of Kasumi. So, let's walk through every garbage aspect of this shit character. First off, yeah, he is boring. Arguably less so than Kaidan, but compared to the absolutely insane crew you put together in Mass Effect 2, he's Cheerios in the children's cereal section. He's a guy. Everyone else is the master of something or a cut above the rest, but Jacob, he's a guy, a soldier. And the idea, obviously, is that he's supposed to be the most grounded character. Shepard's bro, a guy who's got your back in the chaos. But they colossally fuck that up. He works for Cerberus right from the start, with a big aspect of Mass Effect 2 being that you can't fully trust Cerberus and those who work for them. So the logical attitude to take is not to trust him.
I don't care what they did or what you say, I am not working with terrorists.
Compare this to the other two average Joes you start a Mass Effect game with, Kaidan and Vega, the boring squad. You have no reason not to trust them. They are established as characters you already know and have a working relationship with. Alright, but maybe that's the point, right? You start off not trusting him, but soon see that he can be your best backup in this crazy crew. Well, guess who the game pushes you to recruit first? Garrus fucking Vakarian. He is one of Shepard's best friends and generally considered one of the best bros in literally all of gaming. So they added a character who's supposed to be your best friend, then give you good reason not to trust him and throw in your actual best friend from the first game right off the bat. So Jacob immediately loses his niche. But surely Shepard can have more than one friend. And hey, at least if Jacob's boring, that means he can't be too annoying or flawed, right? No. See, here's the actual issue with Jacob. What most people don't really actively think about, but definitely notice subconsciously. The real reason Jacob is the worst crewmate is that he has no, absolutely zero, redeeming qualities. Of the Vega, Kaidan, Jacob boring squad, Kaidan is mature, listens well, and is incredibly loyal to the Alliance. Vega is determined, willing to do whatever's needed even at risk to himself, and again, is incredibly loyal. Jacob is none of these things. First off, he's a total fucking asshole. He's supposed to be the nice guy of the ship, but he antagonizes multiple recruits the second they come aboard. Also, gotta love when he insults the Drell assassin who joins you for no cost, but says nothing about the human mercenary who joins you explicitly because he's getting paid. Definitely doesn't make Jacob seem inconsistent and racist. And then there's his advice. In Mass Effect 2, there are multiple points where you meet up with a mix of Miranda, Jacob, EDI, and Mordin. During these parts, Jacob not once offers actually good advice. This is the flaw I feel people bring up the least in regards to Jacob's shittiness. And there's going to be actual plot spoilers for Mass Effect 2 here, not just Jacob spoilers. So skip to this point if you haven't played it. Seriously, skip ahead. This spoils some of the cooler moments and it's a great game, just play it. Alright, here be spoilers. I warned you. After the mission on the Collector ship, Jacob suggests that you immediately continue onward to the next story mission, collecting a Reaper IFF. The second you get the IFF, you have triggered the endgame. At that point, a countdown starts until your crew is kidnapped, and then the longer you take to start the final mission, the more of them die. So the smart thing to do is to get all of your prep work done before collecting the IFF. Jacob suggests you take the path that gets the most people killed. And guess what? After the crew is kidnapped, Jacob insists that you rush right through the Omega-4 relay to save them. Rushing into the final mission without a loyal team and upgraded ship can lead to an absolute bloodbath of your characters dying left and right. Now, if you prepared yourself fully before collecting the IFF, then you do want to rush into the final mission, because that's how you save your entire crew. But again, Jacob suggested getting the Reaper IFF immediately before you could possibly have the prep work done. If you collect the Reaper IFF when Jacob says you should, it is literally impossible to be fully prepared for the final mission. And if you are fully prepared, then Miranda will say so and also insist that you rush into the final mission, because she knows that you're ready. So you've got Miranda telling you if you're ready or not, and Jacob who always says to go through, meaning his advice is going to be either wrong or redundant. He adds nothing here. But there are a couple other sections where he gives advice. Maybe he's helpful in those at least, right? Well, what about the part where you bring an inactive Geth and are presented with the choice of selling it to Cerberus or reactivating it to speak to it? Miranda insists you sell it to Cerberus, but there's so little to buy in Mass Effect 2, and by that point you have so much money that there's a good chance you have literally bought every purchasable item by the time you're making this choice. So the money is effectively worthless. So at least Miranda's giving the bad advice this time. That means Jacob's on the side of the much smarter reactivate the Geth and speak to it choice, right?
I saw enough of these things I need in Prime. Space it.
Nope! He wants to literally throw a super valuable find out the airlock like it's garbage. Thanks, Jacob. What a brilliant fucking idea. There's no significance at all to a deactivated Geth that spoke to you. Just throw it out! Don't even make money from it! A suggestion so stupid, the game doesn't even let you do it! And then we get to the ending. Now, technically, Jacob does give good advice here, in that he's the one who suggests splitting the teams into two. But there's no choice there. That's just how the mission proceeds. So he's not a character explaining to Shepard and the player the benefits of choosing a certain option. He's just the one telling you what the next mission's gonna be like. And then you learn that you need to send somebody through the ventilation to hack a door open. And you get these lines.
Someone could sneak in through this ventilation shaft here.
Practically a suicide mission. I volunteer.
I appreciate the thought, Jacob, but you couldn't shut down the security systems in time. We need to send a tech expert.
It's your call, Commander. Who do we send into the shaft?
If you send Jacob into the vents, he dies. Once you have picked him for that job, his fate is completely sealed and there's no way to stop it. So his final grand suggestion: get somebody killed. Fortunately, the person who dies is Jacob. Realistically speaking, sending a character with no tech knowledge, like Jacob, could have potentially gotten numerous characters killed, including Shepard, and cost the entire mission. It just ends up not happening that way. So he eagerly volunteers for a job he isn't fucking qualified for. However, many people consider it the best advice he gives because it successfully kills off the worst character. However, even if he sucks at his job, an emotional connection can help you look past that, right? Plenty of other squad mates make bad calls, just not as many. Well, Jean Elka puts it very aptly in their article ranking Mass Effect companions. The problem with Jacob isn't that he's boring. The problem with Jacob is that he refuses to open up in any way. When you ask about his experience with the Corsairs, he makes a blanket statement and says that life is behind him. When you ask about his relationship with Miranda, he refuses to go into details. When you ask about his father after his loyalty mission, he doesn't want to talk about it. How are players supposed to connect with a character who doesn't seem to want to connect with them? It's a fun little article without any of that slideshow bullshit. Link in the description if anyone wants to give it a read. And now, let's talk about the separation of a player's view of a character and a character's view of a character. In games with lots of choice, there will be different circumstances that NPCs find themselves in, and how they react to these situations is something that the player considers when forming an opinion. The player character, however, only sees the outcome that happens in one specific playthrough, and so will players who only play through the game once. However, knowing how characters respond to situations that you did not find yourself in is still a valid means of judging them. A perfect example of this is the Undertale genocide route. Many people have not actually played through this route, myself included, but they are aware of how characters act in it. Characters such as Undyne and Sans gained a lot of popularity due to how they respond to the player in this route. A route that many players did not personally experience is still considered when they form their opinion of these characters. So, why bring this up? It's because now we're going to judge Jacob for his shitty romance and the shitty things he does in it, despite the fact that basically nobody ever romances him because he sucks. Jacob is the worst romance option in the series, because he does something that no other character in Mass Effect does, and is rarely done by any romanceable character in any game because it is simply not fun to experience. He cheats on the player character. When you encounter Jacob in Mass Effect 3, after romancing him in Mass Effect 2, he has started a relationship with this woman, Brynn. Mass Effect 3 takes place 6 months after 2, with Shepard being in Alliance custody during that time. This is something brought up in pretty much every rekindled romance, but Jacob is the only one who cheats on you. And this could perhaps be interesting if it was portrayed as a major character flaw that they really hone in on. But no, the more you learn, the more insulting it gets. During the 6 months, nearly every romanceable character is taking care of important business. Tali returns to the fleet. Garrus sets up a task force. Liara is
information redacted.
Thane is rekindling his relationship with family, and Miranda is watching over her sister. And all of them stand by Shepard during that time, eager to continue the romance once they're no longer in custody. So what is Jacob doing during that 6 months? Perhaps if he was doing life or death, vital work, it could be understood if he found his way into somebody's arms.
So I quit Cerberus, I quit everything, and sat by the Mediterranean for a while. That's when I lost track of you.
And what did all the fresh air and meditation teach you?
That what I choose to fight for better mean something to me. That it comes from the heart.
He went to the fucking beach! He sits on his ass chilling on the beach, shacking up with somebody else, then he has the fucking audacity to try and blame you. Wow, waiting 6 months? Nobody else had trouble waiting. What, did the sand between your toes make it too much to bear? Okay, but maybe the romance was just casual, right? A hookup and nothing more. Maybe it was pretty reasonable to just move on. Well, here's how Jacob responds if you tell him you're ending things with him to date somebody else.
You pushed for more and now you pull the plug? Hope you've got a good excuse for this one.
If you must know, I'm cleaning house before trying to start something with Garrus.
That cuttlebone? I suppose you have a history. That's usually enough. Alright, Shepard. You want to pretend this makes it okay? I can do that. A nice official wall. Go do what you want. I don't need the hassle.
He throws a fit when you break with him honestly, but then blames you when he leaves you for somebody else without telling you while you're under arrest. And I feel I should mention that when you don't romance Jacob, Brynn is actually a pretty likable character. She's shown as competent and caring, but overconfident and paying for it. But when you romance Jacob, she becomes an insufferable that gets into catfights with you over this garbage character.
Because I'm also going to tell you this. The best place for Jacob now is with me. I hope that you can see that.
I don't want to talk about this with you. My relationship with Jacob is none of your business.
I did not romance Jacob. Not even for this video specifically about him. I used a save editor for this footage. I would never romance Jacob. This still makes me hate him because it reveals the kind of person he is as a character. Now don't get me wrong, a character being an asshole doesn't mean they're poorly written. Miranda is a well done and well loved character, and she is intentionally obnoxious at the start of Mass Effect 2. They actively make her a bitch, with other characters referring to her as such, and Shepard having the option to. I'm generally not one to go around calling women I've just met who just saved my life bitches.
To start, I would have implanted you with some type of control chip, but the elusive man wouldn't allow it.
But honestly, it's a pretty accurate description of early game Miranda. But this is intentional. They want her to start off on the wrong foot with you and push Shepard away to emphasize her warming up to you later. This contrasts heavily with Jacob, who is supposed to be likable, but instead he's completely insufferable. Mass Effect 3 is especially bad about acting like he's some close friend of yours. Even when he fucking cheats on you, the game acts like he has some kind of point. Glad you're doing good, Jacob. Wow, I'm happy you and the woman you left me for are getting along. Man, Jacob, you're so nice and such a good soldier despite being the least useful squad mate in Mass Effect 2. Oh yeah, did I mention that? He's worthless in Mass Effect 2 gameplay as well. He is functionally similar to Grunt, but with worse offense and defense. There is no reason to use him once you've awakened the Krogan. He is a character who is useless in gameplay, useless in the story, a total asshole, completely unloyal to the Alliance, Cerberus, and you, and he never suffers any consequences for it. If he survives into Mass Effect 3, he gets a good ending. Literally, every non-Jacob full squad mate from any game in the Mass Effect series can or will die at some point in Mass Effect 3. But no matter what you do with Jacob, he gets a happily ever after. The lack of consequences for his fucking awful behavior is why he inspires so much rage. Nobody likes seeing assholes get a happy ending. Here's the nicest thing I can say about Jacob. His loyalty mission is actually really good. For those who are unaware, every squad mate in Mass Effect 2 has a loyalty mission in which Shepard helps them solve something very personal to them, allowing them to better focus on the primary mission. Jacob's is that his father is missing, but he may have suddenly gotten a lead on where he ended up. You find the ship his father was on and where it crashed. It's an amazing and brutal Heart of Darkness story that utilizes the science fiction setting perfectly using mechs and a strange foreign planet. I'm not going to do a deep dive on it, but the important things to know are that it is incredibly dark and that his father is a horrible man. And here's where the niceties end. Jacob adds nothing to his own loyalty mission. Basically, his entire presence can be boiled down to, wow, this is bad. Yeah, thanks BioWare, really adding depth to the character to learn that they think keeping slaves is not nice. Once you get to the end where you confront his father, Jacob's emotions just don't come through. It's hard to say whether the writing or the voice acting are to blame, but he just feels so flat in what should be a super emotional moment.
There's no way I'm letting this slide, Taylor. The price will be paid.
How much? What kind of math can balance these lives? His life isn't worth pulling the damn trigger.
I think they're trying to present him as calm and level-headed in this insane situation, but instead it just adds to his boringness. There's honestly quite a few comparable scenes, and Jacob's is the flattest by a mile. Here's the least spoilery of the bunch for comparison.
Just leave me here. This is where I belong.
Fuck that!
He deserves it.
I decide how to deal with my past, not you. I gave you an order. Killing him isn't gonna fix my head. Get out of here. Go! He's not worth chasing. None of it is.
The writing and delivery are miles better in this scene, and this part has many more alternative outcomes than the end of Jacob's loyalty mission. And now the elephant in the room. The human squad mates of the series are a pretty wide range of ethnicities. However, of the squad mates, Jacob is the only one who is black. Take a second to think about the loyalty mission I just described. Jacob's the one black crewmate you have in the series, and his mission is tracking down his father who abandoned him. That's a really bad reinforcement of an offensive stereotype. However, it's not quite as bad as it seems at a glance. Mass Effect characters and daddy issues go hand in hand, it's even become something of a meme. Jacob isn't even the only character that plays into the absentee father trope. Liara has one, and Thane is one. The real problem is that once you get into Mass Effect 3, they don't stray away from harmful stereotypes. Instead, they pile them on. Not only is Jacob now in a relationship with Brynn, leaving Shepard, he accidentally got her pregnant. The one black squad mate is the only romance partner who cheats on you for a side chick that he accidentally knocked up out of marriage. That's really, really fucking bad. Like, seriously, what the actual fuck? This is an amalgamation of offensive black stereotypes. I will not hesitate to say that this is by far the most problematic aspect of the entire series, including the original Mass Effect 3 ending. I do feel safe saying that this was not intentional racism, however, considering that Mass Effect 3 does have some wonderful representation, like Cortez. It is so rare to see gay characters of color, especially where neither are their defining traits. and this was done back in 2012. Maybe they thought it would be the opposite of the absentee father stereotype. I mean, Jacob says he's going to do well by the child, and he never mentions wanting to run away or abandon it. So that's something, right? Right? No, it's still really fucking bad. There are a million ways to downplay or qualify it, but at the end of the day, it's just really fucking bad, BioWare. So not only does Jacob have no redeeming features while not facing any consequences for his awful actions, as written, he's a very offensive racial stereotype. That is why Jacob Taylor is the worst squadmate in Mass Effect. The only reason I haven't said he's the worst character in Mass Effect is because Kai Lang exists, and even then, who's the worst is up for debate. I want to emphasize that I'm not trying to cancel BioWare here. Even if I thought it would be justified, it wouldn't be my place. This isn't my fight. More people of color worked on Mass Effect than worked on this video. But these are criticisms I've heard echoed multiple times by people of color, and I felt that I had a responsibility to at least mention them in a video of this nature. I don't like ending on such a serious note, especially for a series that I do love and that has touched the hearts of so many, and as a whole, has a ton of very positive representation. So I will be revisiting Mass Effect again in my next video, and that time with a positive focus. I will be looking at the best squadmate in the series, and contrary to what this video may make you think, it's actually not going to be about Garrus. Stay tuned.